Hello, my dogs and cats and those in between. This is Leaf, and today I will be reading Broken Piece of Paradise by Lyrics Write Prose. This will be the second part to Chapter 4. The fandom is the Murderbot Diaries. The warnings are major character death and graphic depictions of violence. It's an all-OC adventure.
I am in here.
The door opened. Lucky was doing some sort of headstand on the bed, but taking most of its weight by leaning against the wall, left hand tapping against it, always. Patterns rarely repeating. Can I come in? A very small smile.
I like that you ask. Yes, you may also sit down where you wish and perform normal activities. I have a refillable container with water in it.
Tansy eyed the thermos that she'd given Lucky. I'm really hoping that thing has new water and not the stuff I gave you that first night, because it looked like it hadn't touched it.
It has warmed since it was last refilled, but it is uncontaminated.
Lucky said, flipping the right side up long enough to hand it to her, in one easy motion that Tansy couldn't quite make sense of. It should have involved its hands more.
It is satisfactory water. It lacks the appropriate amount of flavor?
It seemed trying to reassure her, or else advertise the water to her, both of which were oddly sweet. My friend, Tansy sighed, no water on this boat lacks the appropriate amount of flavor. I just hope we are all not giving ourselves heavy metal poisoning. She poured herself a cup, because the old people used separate cups of fear of germs, and Lucky had lived in a large enough society that deadly germs were still a big deal. Sat down on the desk's chair, caught an astonished, vulnerable look on Lucky's face. What? Lucky was slow to answer. Finally, it said,
You don't believe him.
Who?
The captain. You don't believe I'm a commando.
Tansy pressed her lips together, took a deep breath before answering. I don't think that you're trying to sell us into slavery. I don't believe that. Or at least she didn't want to. I don't think that's who you are. I do think you worked for Bereshastranza in some sort of military capacity, and the job description you gave me was bullshit. Absolutely. She swallowed. Here's the thing. Given how evil the people who approached our leaders seem to be, I've started thinking that if you went to your supervisor and said, I resign, take me back to my home planet, you might have gotten shot in the back. I think you're a refugee. Lucky gave a slight, sad smile.
Shot in the back.
What's funny about that?
It's so much cleaner and softer than the death I had waiting for me. I suppose I am a refugee.
Tansy nodded stiffly. That was bad. She kind of expected bad. The thing that's worrying me right now is that you're a refugee who's eavesdropping on the bridge. Lucky seemed to consider this. Then it said,
Your captain would get you killed. As far as I can tell, he believes that people do not begin lethal attacks while negotiating. Too many, the main purpose of negotiation is to distract. One plans a lethal attack. I do not go to the bridge expecting overt access to your systems. I want to acquire covert access. I want to respect your customs as much as possible, but I am deploying botherware and nobody can stop me. He will call shortly. Can you help me with the comm?
Tansy stood up. I have to tell the captain. It's my job. Would it stop her? It didn't have a weapon. Maybe it didn't have a plan. Same sort of clothes as always. Heavy cotton print shirt with a crossing pattern, long sleeves with cuffs at the wrist, long trousers, outdoor boots. There might be a lot of places to conceal a small gun. Lucky, though, just nodded gravely.
He will feel that you have correctly discharged your duty if you tell him. However, he knows.
Tansy's not sure what that meant. Pressed 01. Harkin answered immediately. What did that fucker do? He says he's deploying botherware, Tansy said. And then, is that music? Why is there music? It's from the other ship, Harkin gritted. Who is not likely to negotiate us without fucking eardrums? Can you make it stop?
No.
Lucky said, putting both hands behind its head and leaning back.
Disassemble the console all you like. You won't find it.
A small silence, only broken by the upbeat rhythms in the background. Find what? Harkin said. How did you know I was doing that?
I have been listening. Your systems are safe. The music aboard the Conquistador will stop shortly.
Harkin, Tansy said. Let me talk to it a minute, and closed the channel. Lucky, what?
Human beings experience negative effects at high decibel levels.
Lucky seemed unconcerned.
The song from your database is an archaic hymn, entreating a sinister supernatural entity not to artificially distort the singer's emotions. I hope the subject matter disturbs some of the listeners, but the main purpose is to keep them busy during the adjustment of the priority tree within weapon sys.
What's been adjusted in weapon size?
Before it can execute a command, it must first completely scan and analyze each iteration of Stupid Cupid in its queue. FoodSys is sending its Stupid Cupid with minute variations, 256 times a second. It won't kill anyone.
Lucky added.
And they won't even notice if they don't try to fire on you, so I think I'm being very generous to them.
The thing that popped in Tansy's head was, why food size? So she said it.
Nobody ever suspects FoodSys.
The hell if it was, Tansy thought. It was a little bit brilliant. The Bear Sistranza leaders were cold and terrifying, and she thought it was entirely possible that they would fire during negotiations. She agreed with Lucky, not the captain. If they didn't mean to shoot, jamming up their weapons computer wouldn't hurt them.
There we go.
Lucky added.
No more sonic discomfort on the Conquistador.
A pause.
Captain Lattimore is re-establishing communications. Trying to. They're delaying.
You surely can't eavesdrop on the Conquistador too.
Of course not. Tansy, I do not have a lot of bandwidth to send the botherware in the first place. Your computer, I guess, it's not a bot. Now that I have established a direct link and have a way to perceive it, is not spooky. It's tiny and cute and endearing, like a little round fauna. But it's extremely limited, and I don't think it's even aware of me, let alone anyone else outside itself. No, I can tell they're delaying because the person Captain Lattimore is speaking to is not in the chain of command. I suspect Supervisor Tarash's secretary.
Yeah, that's fair, Tansy said, sighing. Stars above. But everyone in the crew proper is going to shit hedgehogs over this. Lucky blinked several times, then its lips quirked, and it said,
I am saving that phrase.
Do they have hedgehogs on your home planet then?
No, I looked it up on your system. I do not have a home planet.
You said where you came from. It was a number?
It wasn't a home planet. 552 is a manufacturing space station. It is not home for anyone.
Lucky laid down on the bed. Then, through some bizarre magic that seemed to involve flinging its legs up and letting the rest of it follow, threw itself into a handstand again, resting its feet against the wall instead of tapping a cadence on the wall with both hands. Do you need a walk? Tansy said, not particularly meaning it as a question.
I would like a walk. However, it will be harder to keep you updated on the developing situation. There are certain warnings I should not issue with. A child present.
Lucky stopped.
There he is. Supervisor Tarash. He...
Looking abruptly alarmed,
is talking about stolen property.
Tansy sat still for a moment. Then she said, Are they talking about the war machine, or are they talking about you?
The war machine.
Lucky said, after a moment.
Captain Lattimore has not announced my presence, which is good.
Another pause.
The war machine is a highly engineered 2 million credit monster. Supervisor Tarash would at least offer to let the ship go unscathed. If Captain Lattimore could produce it, he would go back on his word. But he would offer what Supervisor Tarash would think if Captain Latimer mentioned me. Hello, we have an unapproved passenger. We don't trust it. Come and collect your own.
A pause. Lucky pushed off the wall with its feet to spin around once on its head.
I don't actually know what Supervisor Tarash would think.
That has got to be bad for your neck, Tansy told it.
I'm fine. I'm not going to damage myself. I just hate holding still.
But Lucky moved down from the handstand to lie flat on the bed.
Think like Supervisor Tarash for a moment. Think. Every part of his strategy will be focused around the combat sec unit. But I think making plans as if his priority were capturing the children, unacceptable. Unacceptable scrap.
That came out as a snarl, and Tansy jumped. Lucky flipped itself into a sitting position and went very still.
I'm not going to hurt you,
it said quietly. I know. She couldn't quite say she trusted it. She didn't really know it. She didn't distrust it, though, and she wondered if Captain Latimer would break professionalism and yell at her for that. She scooted towards the bed and held out her hands. Hey, it's going to be all right.
It will be all right. It's unwarranted superstition. What is that gesture for?
For you to hold my hands if you want to, Tansy added. No pressure. It met her eyes with another astonished, vulnerable look.
May I?
Yes, of course. It put both its hands on hers very gravely, seeing almost as if it didn't know what to do with them. Fingers curled around her hands hesitantly, as if it was holding a quail chick. Its palms were warm this time. The skin on its palms felt tough, but not as inflexible as the calluses on a farmer's hand. Lucky stayed like that for a moment, then withdrew.
There. We have held hands. I feel better.
Saying, "You are so fucking weird," would have come across as cruel, Tansy thought, even if she meant it as a lament to how much she didn't understand it. Instead, she said, "I'm glad." Lucky apparently took this as a signal to get back to business.
Supervisor Tarash needs to locate the combat sec unit. If it is on the colony, it isn't his purview anyways. The glory or the failure belongs to Nikora, who is rapidly running out of forgiveness for failures, if rumor is true. If she botches the retrieval or something worse happens, Tarash would like to look like the only person who salvaged something from the wreckage. The children, maybe. But that's not an optimum situation for him. That's competence, not glory. What he really wants is for the combat sec unit to be under your control, on this ship.
If it was under our control, would it be dangerous to him?
Extremely, although, from his point of view, under enemy control may be better than under no control. But the situation would be high risk, high reward. The best case scenario is that he can retrieve the combat sec unit somehow. That's glory. 2 million credits of machinery back under the company's control, and also he gets a reputation as a steel-souled badass with titanium nerves and the ice water veins who stare death in the eye. All the things that people brag about when they make others take stupid risks and don't end up aerosolized. Second best is if he destroys his ship and can confirm that the combat sec unit was on board. Verifying the unit's presence is the hard part, or else he'd already be shooting. Because if he destroys this ship and declares himself the company's valiant, bold, charming, and infinitely modest defender, and Nikora produces the combat sec unit a few days later, saying, "Just doing my part," Madame Shareholder, even an easy assignment deserves my full effort. That's the equivalent of falling face first into fauna waste in front of a previously cheering crowd.
I'm guessing you've listened to these people a lot, Tansy said.
Listening to the secretaries provides much more context. Some of them are not shy about this sort of analysis. The thing Supervisor Tarash must prevent is for Captain Latimer to deploy the combat sec unit against himself or his personnel, which means that he will be extremely wary of physical exchange between the two ships. But the Horizon doesn't even have a shuttle exactly, just lifeboats.
What is he talking about with Captain Latimer?
They're going around and around. Because Tarash isn't going to say, Please return the weapon that gives you the only advantage you have in this situation. And Captain Latimer doesn't know what he's talking about.
Lucky looked wry.
Captain Latimer seems like he would like to reach through the screen and manually deoxygenate Supervisor Teresh. But they're both keeping their tempers.
Do corporate citizens really say manually deoxygenate instead of throttle? Or is that just you?
I think that one was a joke when I heard it. Mostly they say choke or strangle. Throttle is a new slang to me, world slang.
A pensive pause.
There is no such thing as a corporate citizen.
Well, what do you call?
Human beings in the corporation rim.
Yeah.
Several ranks. There are executives and shareholders, and supervisors and managers, then employees and workers, which includes most freelancers, and then indentured workers.
What about people who aren't employed?
I never heard of that.
Lucky said. And then...
We're 30 minutes from potential engagement, 43 minutes from the wormhole. Let's see what Supervisor Teresh decides to do.
Author's notes. It's true that Lucky doesn't want to hurt anyone on the horizon, but it's also fortunate for everyone on board that it feels far more threatened by someone attempting to give a direct order rather than by some little weapon. Look, if you were a sapient Abrams tank and someone pointed a beautifully crafted antique Colt revolver at you, your reaction might easily be something close to OMG, WTF, it's so cute, than any normal reaction to a weapon. For my research, I poked at Google and then looked at Wikipedia. $4 million is not out there sort of price for a tank, which is why I've decided that 2 million credits is not an unlikely price tag for Lucky. Lucky has the absolute confidence of someone who knows that it was literally designed and built to be hot shit. But it is also disturbed and upset by errors, especially unexpectable errors, like suddenly believing that obviously the children and their safety are the most important part of any upcoming combat scenario, and therefore expecting the hostile to open negotiations with the demand for them rather than it. In the grand scale of things, it's not a huge error, but it bothers it, okay? Linked to Stupid Cupid. Objectively the funniest thing you could use to jam up a big enough tough weapon system. So that is a particular anachronism stays. I hope it's still slightly implied that one of the reasons why Lucky is good as it is with social situations that it is. Reader's notes. Sorry if the tapping is kind of annoying. I'm trying something new. And then I got my friend Star to help me with this one. So, yay, it has editing. That's why the voices are all off. Sorry. I tried my best. If there's any major things, you can tell me in the comments.
There is no such thing as a corporate citizen. That made me laugh. Okay, I think, oh boy.
Sometimes, what the fuck?